A very good evening to every one of you. We have a very interesting topic to talk on platform. And the moment we talk of platform revolution, many things comes up in your mind. And actually, what happened last evening, which you all would have observed, Chandrayaan, and that's actually in a way a platform revolution which is taking place globally in a space way. The same way platform revolution, when you talk about, the first thing comes to your mind is the book written by Sanjeev Paul Chowdhury on platform revolution. A lovely book. I encourage you all to read that book. It describes, there are three things in which it describes the platform, and that's what we are going to hear today from all the panelists. I'll come to them in a minute. The first thing is platforms invert the traditional business model. Instead of creating a value primarily for the internal processes or then selling to customers, platform allows and encourages users to create value for each other. That's the first part of it. Second is a fundamental shift from a resource control to resource orchestration. Now, the moment we start getting into resource orchestration, we're actually scaling up, and that's exactly where the scale happens at reduced cost. That's the second piece of it. Third is network effects. So the more number of people join, the more people benefit from coming in from that. So these are the three things which distinguishes a platform from traditional businesses. Uh, if you look back and in your own hand phone, probably you already have at least three or four platform applications with you. UPI, Google Pay, Phone Pay, whatever, Paytm, whatever you're using, Ola, Uber, Amazon, Misho, or many of those ones. You can name it, and we actually are seeing all this thing happening today. Uh, so what with this a brief intro about what platform is, I want to introduce our panelists to you as to who they are and what we'll be talking about it. The first one I will quickly introduce is Saurav. Saurav Ghoshal is based out of Singapore. He works for Sinfindo, heads the business development strategy for them, and currently doing an additional responsibility head of business development for Apix, which is a global fintech marketplace and sandbox, which connects financial institutions, fintechs, and a regulator. He's doing some amazing work on building platform partnership in ASEAN region, in South Asia, some part of Europe, and Africa too. So he's a perfect person who can talk about platform and the kind of scale what he's trying to bring in. Second, we have is Pankaj Raut. Pankaj he's from Sangli, and the purpose which I'm saying that I'll tell you later on in the discussion because I did my B from Karad, so close association with Sangli on there. So he has done mechatronics engineering from London South Bank University, a thought leader who has been involved into many AV and AR projects. He's done some amazing work globally on that. He was the one who has developed Europe's best 3D scanning system with 45 DSLR cameras and a software behind it, and which he converted to use into 3D games. So he has done some amazing work. He is currently involved in socializing Lens and taking it to the larger public. Basically, he is using this as a lever and for people who do not have enough resources and bringing up the complete level up. You will hear that from him. Some amazing work, social, at the same time, something which impacts the economy big time. He's doing it. And the third gentleman we have is Shrikant. Shrikant is doing something which is very close to my heart personally, having worked with Microsoft for ages and having currently sitting on OneNote and making all my notes. So he is building something called Sketchnote. He is a four times entrepreneur, has built up several companies earlier. His current company is all focused on Sketchnote, and he's doing a lot of work on digital transformation. So we are going to have some interesting discussions, from now on. So I'll start with the questions. If that's okay, we can start a discussion. Uh, My first question to will be to Saurabh, and if he can talk briefly about what he's doing in and what platform means for him. What is that he's trying to disrupt? Saurabh?
Hi, Pushkaraj, Pankaj, Srikanth, great to meet you, and thank you everyone for joining in. So, Pushkaraj, you were very kind in the introduction. For the benefit of everyone on the call, so I work for a company called Apex. Apex is a platform, it's a B2B matching platform, which helps match people who create or people who drive innovation in any form. These could be fintechs, these could be startups, these could be technology companies, even students and developers, with people who want access to this innovation. And these could be large organizations like banks, these could be insurers, but also it could be regulators or even governments. So the platform that we run is a way for this two sets of people, which are distributed globally, doing a variety of different things, to come together and find, discover, co-create solutions with each other. Most importantly, in a fast, efficient, and secure manner. Right? Fast and efficient, I think, is obvious to everyone. You want to order something, you want to go on a platform, you obviously want very fast service, you want to do it in a cheap manner. But the one point I would focus on is the safety and security aspect. Because in a platform, in my view, if you can guarantee safety, security, in some cases, privacy and consent, you can truly add value to the people who are using the platform. So pardon my sales pitch a little bit, but if we've been used by the likes of Reserve Bank of India to build the entire e-rupee tech stack. They are regular users of our platform. We've been used by the likes of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, by the Bank of International Settlements, by central banks ranging from Switzerland all the way to Philippines to find innovation at scale. Some of the largest banks in the world use us, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, Citibank, etc. And the kind of digital transformation we've been able to do has been truly impressive. So that's the platform that I work with, B2B, business matching, safe, secure, efficient, and cost effective.
Lovely. Thanks for the spine. I would take the segue to take it to to Pankaj. Pankaj sees the world through a different lens, and that's Asna lens. And you would love to hear what he's trying to do. Pankaj, if you can talk a brief about what is that you have been doing, which is the lens which you are seeing this whole world, and how are you using platform to take it to the complete different level, the kind of disruption which you are doing for this the whole our economy. Over to you.
Thank you, Pushkaraj. Namaskaram, everyone. Thank you so much, Pushkaraj, for the introduction. So I am one of the co-founders at Asna Lens. Asna Lens started in 2014 when three co-founders met, and we felt that before we die, we want to create an impact on the world, create something positive at the grassroots level by using technology as a tool medium, or in this case as a platform, so that we can create a positive impact at the grassroots level using technology. So we at Asna Lens, we have our own devices called Asna XR devices. So we manufacture our own augmented and virtual reality devices, which is then supported by our platform called Asna Vidya. So Asna Vidya is a platform wherein any person can come and learn any skill in one third the time. So let's say for you to learn piano would probably take you 3 years. On this platform using the hardware and then the platform, you'll be able to learn and become an expert within a year. And that too practically learning the skills, right? What we figured out that globally unemployment is drastically increasing. The reason for that is not the lack of jobs, but it is lack of the skill set, which is globally a big challenge. So what if we can help increase the rate at which people learn this skill set and give this technology accessible to anyone and everyone who can't really afford it. So that is how we started working at grassroots level, wherein we have deployed with around 5 states. So we work with Bihar, Tamil Nadu, Assam, where we have deployed these solutions as ITS. So ITS are industrial training institutes where people come to learn skills such as welding, spray painting, plumbing, electricians, so that they can earn a livelihood for themselves. So they are learning onto this platform, getting this to the top end, wherein we work with large enterprises such as TVS, Vedanta, Tata Technologies, where we deployed it for their internal learning and development. Two defense forces where we deployed it within the Indian Army, Navy, DRDO for their own internal training use cases. So that's like a brief intro about what we at Asnalens do.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot for that. Srikant, you're doing some cool work on Sketchnote. You are disrupting the way people work. I think a quick intro from you will really help the audience to understand what you are doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words. So what we've been doing is that, we are trying to solve the issue of, too many applications, right? No matter if you're a small startup or if you're an enterprise, what happens is that over the period of time, you end up with too many applications and too many complexities, which are basically which arise from these kind of applications. So in the US, what happens is that, typically enterprises like, and the startups, they go with, kind of solutions which do only one thing, which they do very well. But, Asia being like more of a price sensitive market, they do believe in bundling, right? You take like Gojek, you take like anyone else, like everyone believes in bundling because they feel that, you come to a platform and you should be able to get a lot many different things at that one particular price. And we do believe that since we are here, we have seen this problem very well, very firsthand. And that's why what we thought is that what if like we make like a bundled platform which not only takes care of your tech needs, your design needs, your accounting needs, marketing, sales, and stuff like that. That would be really cool. And that's what we've been like, trying to actually solve in a very limited and a lean fashion. We are a remote first company, so we've got employees from India, Pakistan, Nepal, Spain, and stuff, and we are trying to do that in a much more efficient way so far. And I've got a Sangli connection as well. My mom is from Sangli.
That's lovely. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the brief introduction, everyone. I really appreciate that. So, as because I have been associated with platforms for some time, currently working on two large projects. One is the fintech, where we all hear about fintech, in particular lending space. A lot of work is happening there. What I'm working on is on the last mile, the DSA. We are trying to revolutionize the way the DSAs operate, because the maximum housing loan and maximum other loans do go through the DSA Personal Connect, which are owned by a particular set of lenders. And we are trying to democratize the whole DSA network. That is one. The second project which I personally am working on is in India, there close to $200 billion of unutilized capacity exists with the small and medium scale industry, SMEs. Now, we're trying to bring them onto a platform so where global buyers can look at capacity and they can outsource them to out over here, depending upon the needs. So it's getting these two platforms together. Now, taking these points, what's important here is who are the ecosystem player and how do each of them benefit from there? It is important that each stakeholder benefits from this. Each stakeholder leverages each other. And there are chances of people also misusing the weaknesses as you're becoming more and more open and more available on the platform. I want to just bring about this point with Saurabh, and if we can share about how do we ensure that the interest of the ecosystem player is taken care of, or how each of them are growing. What is that you are trying to do on the orchestration piece? How is that you're enabling that?
Thank you, Pushkaraj. It's a very valid point because, and I'll give a more generic answer first before we get into what we do specifically at Apex. But in my experience and in our experience, what typically we have seen happen in platforms is that you end up favoring one side over the other. right? You typically have 2, even 3-sided platforms and marketplaces. And usually it's the one that pays the most amount of money is the one whose interests are perhaps more favored versus others, right? And I won't get into um, popular platforms and how data and consent and privacy is being compromised, but it is what it is. So I think first and foremost, Pushkaraj, to your point, one has to treat all the stakeholders in the ecosystem fairly and in a mature manner. One can't take any side for granted, and the rights and the privacy, consent, and other sort of issues need to be addressed, I think, because at some point the platform will fail if people don't see everyone being treated fairly. So I think that's just a fundamental philosophical point I have. Now, with regards to Apex, we have 2 sides to the platform. As I mentioned, we have the large financial institutions, the banks, the regulators, etc., who pay us, and it's the students, the developers, the fintechs who don't pay us. It's free of cost for them, right? And it's very easy for us to say that we will just listen to what the regulator is saying and what the bank is saying, and won't respect what the fintech or the students are coming back with. So we've taken a conscious effort, number one, to not take sides. So we are a neutral marketplace. We try to maintain that neutrality. We don't, sort of recommend one over the other, one fintech over another, one student over another, number one. Number two is even, and we have this concept of a digital sandbox where people can code, build solutions, and showcase those solutions to these banks and regulators. But despite a lot of pressure, we have ensured that the code, and the intellectual property that is created rests with the students, the developers, the fintechs, the startups. It does not go by default to the person who's paying, i.e. the banks. Right now, it leads to touchy discussions with the banks because the banks are saying, look, I'm paying to organize a hackathon, I'm paying to organize a testing environment. I want to see what's behind it. Now, it's tough, but we do believe that one has to be fair to both sides to make sure that the platform has the integrity and can sustainably run in the longer term. Pushkaraj, I don't know if that helps answer your question.
It does. But because the reason which I ask you about is because you have a tricky situation. You have regulators on one side, and those regulations are changing every other day. And the more countries you go to, the complexity further increases for you. And in that kind of a situation, running a platform company becomes really very tough because you have to satisfy all the rules, regulation, ensure that none of the customers' money is ever lost, and you win the trust of all the regulators. That was my first question to you, in fact, on that. Something more you want to add about the complexity because of multi-country presence?
So you're spot on. If I take the example of India, and by the way, the money is important, but the data and the privacy is even more important, right? Regulators are extremely concerned. In India, for instance, customer data has to stay on the soil. Even if you're using cloud environments, it has to stay on soil. In fact, in the Middle East, there are regulators who will say not only does it have to stay on soil, it has to stay on a private cloud, on-prem, and there are others who may have other sort of more stringent requirements. So, look, we are thoughtful about all of these discussions. In some cases where we simply cannot meet local regulatory requirements, we actually reduce our scope of services. We say that, look, we are a testing and experimentation platform only. We will only deal with synthetic data. We will not deal with real life customer data. And again, that has commercial implications for us, right? So it is a considered business practice that we have to make. It requires significant resources for us to expand into new markets. And when we do, Pushkar, there's no magic bullet answer for this. I wish there was, but there really isn't.
Now, through this discussion, I just want to bring out the topic of risk, privacy, and safety, what matters, and so that the audience understands that Uh, it's not just enabling your business, but there are different parameters which we are bound by, and you have to adhere to those two. That's being the one. But thanks for that, Saurabh. If I can ask the same question further to Pankaj. Pankaj, you are converting a real world to a virtual world, then converting a virtual world back to a real world. There is so much of a data which moves up and down. Have you come across any issues for security, for any kind of a data privacy, or that doesn't impact much for your kind of a business?
So there are two kinds of training. One are generic training, in which we can have generic data. Let's say we want to create a generic spray painting booth. We can create that. We just look up some images, see think through, and create a 3D model of that. There, data privacy and security is not a big of a concern. Although we make sure that there also we play a critical role wherein we make sure the security is protected. Even there's no privacy because it is just created by the company, and it's like a synthetic data. So although we make sure that that is also not available into the market, but the concerns come when in it's a data of a, let's say, an enterprise, or let's say when we are working with defense, wherein keeping that in defense use cases, they want it on their local storage. They do not even have access to, let's say, internets, right? They have their intranet. That is wherein a challenge comes in terms of when we are doing reverse engineering, when we are doing 3D scanning to capture that data, and this is very highly secure data that we have to put in on their local storage. So that is where we had to make a lot of changes onto our backend such that it even supports, because the platform was built on for an open internet. Now it has to support a local intranet as well. So making changes, that is one thing that we have to do. With enterprises, some of them are comfortable to store it on our platform, wherein we have industry's best, let's say, the encryption and data policies and everything. That's fine. That works out well. But some enterprises again ask them to put it on either their storage or their servers, which then is an additional work that we have to put in so that our pipeline connects with them and is routed through the entire process. Sometimes their servers are not as optimized at what is required for an application like ours, which is then either the POC process slows down, or we have to help them upgrade their servers so that we can implement our solutions. So these are some of the challenges I think we are facing.
Yeah, I think very well said because for anyone, when it's something like you're onboarding someone to your network or your platform, there are certain base rules which you have, and everyone needs to adhere to that. Even if he's a customer, and if they don't adhere to some basic set of things, which is for their own benefit, probably they never would have thought for it. But now, before you onboard them, they need to upgrade themselves to a set of rules which you have defined in terms of security, trust, and others.
Correct.
True.
And one thing that I just quickly to add, some enterprises, their even servers are not as secure as what our servers are. So we even find
Exactly.
loopholes when they're connecting with us. So I think
So
that's a
true. The practical cases. So true. Coming to Shrikant, you were talking about productivity. You were expecting the world to come and start using your software, put all the confidential data on your cloud, in whichever form the cloud is. How are you dealing with these kind of issues for security, safety, trust? How are you dealing with that?
Okay, so let me be honest, and I've always been honest about this because I'm a huge proponent of building in public, right? So whenever I'm unfortunately an MBA as well, and I will tell you later that why I'm unfortunate. But for people who are not B school guys, let me tell you one thing that they in B schools and stuff like that, you only have like case studies of like how there's a transformation happening for a bigger company, what strategy, why did like the HP and Compaq merger went bad or something like that. But then afterwards, when you come out of your B school, you will not be mostly even if you are from a premium B school or something like that, you will not be in the C-suite level or something like that. You will be like in the workforce, like doing and stuff like that, and far from being a strategy person or something like that. And especially if you actually start with a startup, then you will have to do the dirty work of even cleaning the toilets and forget about the strategy, right? So if it's good to have a strategy in place, it's good to think about compliances in place and stuff like that, but for a startup, you need to just execute first. So obviously, when you actually start first, you will not be thinking about compliances. these compliances like cost like really, if you know, thousands and thousands of dollars. Like for example, 5 years ago, if you even think about like SOC2 compliance, it would not be less than $100,000. Even now as well, like, you know, for example, in my previous company, which was a medtech company, which is like only ruled by compliances, right? For example, if you want to get 510K compliance and HIPAA compliance as well, a 510K in today's world costs like $1.2 million. If you want to start a medtech startup and get like a 510K compliance, all the best. And, you know, I'm a VC as well. So, you know, straight away, if it's a hardware and if it is, we just like straight away say no, you know, because of all of these hurdles, right? So talking about cybersecurity and all of these things, right? We've thought about in place, we've got our hooks and stuff like that. But however, you know, obviously we know about the compliances. Like we need to get like a SOC 2 compliance, type 2. We need to get like, you know, our basic, HIPAA compliance if we are getting in this. You know, Slack, which was acquired as well, right? Till their last 6 months before getting acquired, they did not have HIPAA compliance. And that's why, you know, these guys could not, like the bigger pharma companies did not actually work with Slack. However, do you know what was actually happening inside? Inside, they were having mandates saying that the project managers were saying that, you know what, if you're not allowing me to use Slack, I'm going to leave because I'm not going to use Microsoft products. You know, unfortunately, you know, it's like that, right? So, you know, all the C-suite level guys, they would say that, you know what, I'm going to turn my blind eye. You keep on using it and we will not report it and stuff like that. So I feel that, you know, yes, while all of these compliances, cybersecurity, of course, you need to have like cybersecurity in place, right? But again, like, you know, it rarely ever happens that, you know, if you are like beyond, if you go to Series A level, then it's fine. But before Series A, I've done startups since 2004. I've never seen your startup getting hacked or your or your data getting or your users getting data hacked or something like that. In fact, if you're, you know, again, like this, I may be penalized for saying this or something like that, but probably if your data is getting hacked, congratulations, you already are very big. You already have a product market fit that hackers are already looking at it and they think that, you know, this kind of stuff. So as I say to everyone as well, you should know that what do you need to do. Like, for example, you know, we have a thing that, you know, we don't go beyond 200 people company, because if we go beyond 200 people company, the compliances, the cybersecurity and stuff like that is going to take at least 6 months. The sales cycle is going to take me 9 months. Till that time, I will be like, okay, going back to Sangli and and they asking money from my mom. You know what I mean, right? So, you know, if this audience is about startups, do the right thing. That's all it is. Know your stuff, but execute right from the very beginning and think about all of these things later on.
Wow, that's a very beautiful and a very pragmatic way what you said that. I think I'll say it in two things for you. One is KYC, you rightly said. KYC, that know your customer and precisely work for that piece. If your customer is not enterprise, don't spend too much time getting into some compliance here and there. If if they are bottom of the pyramid, so be it. And that's a huge market. Just address. That's the KYC part of it, I'll say. Second part, I think, is very nicely said about is convenience and security. You know, you just need to balance it. Where there is convenience, at that time, we are absolutely okay to let go certain things because it's more convenient for us. And when security is pretty high or risk are very high, at that time, convenience comes in. That's a sweet spot which you picked up. Nice and pragmatic answer for that.
Thank you so much.
And definitely, I hope you go to Sangli to party and not to ask for money and build more companies there.
Yeah.
Great. I have a very different question now to all three of you. When you talk about a digital transformation or a disruption, each one of you have gone through, or have disrupted some piece of it. Either it's a process, it's a certain part of economy, or a certain segment, or something. It will be great if you can give one of your uh, favorite examples, which you gave what you have disrupted. It could be your customer, a referenceable customer. If it's not referenceable, just without giving a name but a size. Idea is to let the audience know that disruptions mean what? What are the different possibilities which you're bringing in, which each of you are enabling on that? So maybe this time we slightly reverse the thing and we can start with Pankaj, if that's fine with you, Pankaj, because I know about the a great thing which you're doing with IT. One disruption, one or two of those examples. It's just to make people aware that these kind of a disruption is possible and actually happening today
Correct,
from that
correct.
perspective.
Correct. I'll just set a bit of a context first. So ITIs are industrial training centers where people from very tough backgrounds, complex challenges come here so that they can learn a skill, welding, spray painting, plumbing, all of this, so that they can get a job, earn a livelihood for themselves and support their families. Very straightforward. But when they reach and go to these vocational training institutes, it's very saddening to see there is not right infrastructure. If there are 40 students that are learning, there are one or two equipments that they have to share. There is not enough consumables for them as for them to learn as well. So what ends up happening is after 6 months or 1 year after they are learning, they have still not built the right skill set. They struggle to get jobs, and then it's pushing them into further challenges. That is when our platform came in, our devices came in. You wear a virtual reality headset, you are digitally teleported to a actual work site where you're using an actual welding gun, spray painting gun, which is building the right hand dexterity. So we are not using controllers, we are using actual tools which are tracked with millimeter level accuracy, and AI comes in and teaches you right from how to pick up the equipment to how to become an expert, as compared to a local teacher who might or might not be interested into growth of that individual. This thing can happen, right? And each person's learning curve is also different. Some of us are visual learners, some of us are auditory learners, some of us are very good in some specific things, some of us are not good. So the AI can change his journey basis what he is good at, right? Make him more proficient is what he's good at, and if there are some weakness blind spots, help him improve that as well. What ended up happening is instead of 6 months or a 8 months period wherein they might or might not be skilled, we are able to see people who are getting skilled at the same level within 3 to 4 months. So that is a huge disruption. So students are now learning faster and actually building a right skill set, which is actually very important for us as educators. Okay, sorry. So on the platform, their skills are also mapped, and this companies, let's say L&T, Godrej, Mahindra, all of these large companies can know who is the best welder, who is the best spray painter, so that hiring for them also becomes easier. Right now, if someone comes to them and says, "Okay, I'm a good welder," you can't show that in a CV. What happens is they'll ask him to, okay, you do welding like this and show us. If the person burns his hand while doing welding, that now that's a responsibility of the company as well for them to take care of that, right? So all of these challenges are also solved. So enterprises, when they say you're a good welder, he goes onto the platform, he sees his hand dexterity. How good is he in moving his hand in the straight direction? How good is he in, let's say, TIG welding as compared to MIG welding? All of data, all of that visual data is also present. So that is where I think our disruption is happening, both in terms of student and then the end user.
Beautiful. So actually, you were saying that if you look at the whole in our society, you are going at the bottom of the pyramid, looking at all the ITI. I will use the word grads for them. They're actually grads from the area. ITI grads from them. Why should we always call IIT grads? We just start calling ITI grads also. It's a pride thing for them also here. And building a skill which was not easily feasible for them with the current infrastructure which they have, and taking them to the next level. So basically, you're solving the problem for the enterprises for a skilled labor, which on their own they would have to invest. Now, what you have, you're bridging a gap between these two. Just one more question on this as an extension. So, how many villages? Because IT, I'm assuming mostly are in district places or some of those, if not villages. So, how many of these district places have you uh, got together or connected
So
to?
currently we are in present in more than 600 distance part of India. Some of them are in metros as well within the 600.
Yeah,
But on a yearly basis, we are currently training 50,000 individuals on various streets.
awesome, lovely. Good, great to hear. If I can come to Saurabh, if you can share about some example about actual transformation which your system have been able to show that As I said, business transformation, some lives have changed, or whatever that could be.
Absolutely. So let me give you a real life example. And then also, I can't disclose. So a real life example of a success. Unfortunately, I can't disclose the
I
failure.
completely understand that piece.
So
That's fine. Completely respected that piece. It is
yeah.
just to give an idea to people about the possibilities.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me give you a flavor of one of our more successful digital transformations. So, so I'm in Singapore, by the way. And I've not, sadly lived in India for nearly 20 years now. But most of the audience would be in India, and most of you would have used UPI to pay for something or the other, probably 5 times today itself. Now, UPI was not as seamless as it is today, right? A few years ago, especially before or just when COVID hit, and there was an exponential rise in um, cashless transactions, UPI was struggling with authentication, payments authentication. They didn't, so they were looking at digital transformation in a very quick time. Literally, they had months to incorporate a completely new way of authenticating whether you are who you claim you are before you make a payment to someone. So they came to the Apex platform. They held a global hackathon or an innovation challenge where they invited people from all over the world to showcase their capabilities in payments authentication. Right, more than hundreds of startups and fintechs showcase their solutions, and in very quick time, I'm talking months, UPI, or the company that runs UPI called NPCI, managed to find 5 solution providers and finally went live with 3 of them. You go live with multiple because in case one goes down, you still need redundancy, because UPI can't shut down. So this is an example of when there's an exogenous event in the form of COVID and suddenly transactions skyrocket and real life technical challenges emerge. Our platform can help you find the right vendors in double quick time. This is an example, Pushkaraj, of success. There are examples of failure as well, and the failure I would tell you about, I unfortunately can't name the name because it's a global bank. But they wanted to find vendors in a specific use case of and the challenge was that they also had a similar hackathon. They also found the similar vendors. They also tried to go live with the vendors, but the internal culture, the internal organization was just not aligned to it, right? So to me, digital transformation is one about finding the right partner who will transform your business, but secondly, about having that internal drive to actually change yourself. If you are not convinced that you need this digital transformation as an organization, and I can only speak to B2B use cases, I know Pankaj spoke very eloquently about B2C, right? So when you as an individual want to improve yourself and you want to become a better welder, you will use all these tools. But at an organizational level, Pushkaraj, there has to be organizational cultural willingness to take risk, to do something different, to try something different, willing to fail sometimes, because otherwise digital transformation is very hard.
Beautiful. Thanks for that piece here. Shrikant, you want to share something about your market is super clear. You're super clear about a target market. How has their life changed? I can tell you, as a preamble to your answer, actually, I tried it since last 2 days after we got introduced, and I found it's amazing. And if I look at me and few of my portfolio startups, I think this is something is a perfect fit for them. Zyada dimag mat lagao, just use this and quickly get to your work. So very interesting thing which you have done. So any example which you would like to give, again, without naming, the objective is just talk about possibilities. If you
All
can
right.
name, that's also fine.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now, again, like I, I always like try to tell the ground realities of a startup, right? Because from the outside it looks like, oh man, you're killing it, you're crushing it, and it's awesome, and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's not like that at all, right? And I'll tell you the story with us as well. Is that when we actually would tell this to investors. By the way, we've got like very amazing investors. We've not announced them anywhere. We've got SOSV, Draper, All In, Saka Ventures from New York, and stuff like that. When we actually told them about this, that what we are working on, they are like, wow, this is a need of the hour and stuff like that, and awesome, we believe in you guys, blah blah blah. We raise money, money's in the bank and stuff like that. And then we were like chesting our, beating our chest and saying that, okay, we are gonna rock and stuff. And we go to the things, and we started getting punches from people, right? We are telling them that, look, we are gonna make your organization like 2x productive. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and etc. and stuff like that. Punches, 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 like and the main thing what was actually going wrong is that we were making it, we were trying to solve the life of a early stage organization or a mid market much more easier by making it complex, by saying that I have this, I have that, I have like kind of a entire a la carte thing and stuff like that. However, it was not working because people would like come in, the startups, and they have not worked on this, so they do not know how to manage teams, they do not know how to run their entire processes and stuff like that. For them, it was becoming very overwhelming, and they're like, it's too complicated for me, I don't understand anything, I'm leaving. And then we realized that our ICP is not an early stage company at all. The ICP is basically mid-market to an enterprise who do not care about the budget, who do not care about the money part, but only care about that, I have too many complexities happening. The one department does not talk to each other. Like, they do not know what is actually going on. Nobody shares the data. That if the data has to be shared, then, there's too many complexities, like the pipes need to go in and stuff like that. And these guys would come to us and saying that, okay, you know what? We already know the problem. We just saw it. And now tell us that how this thing works. So the same thing that, what was actually happening is that, we would spend time educating the customer, which was a wrong ICP for us, saying that if you use this, it's going to solve your problem. But they were like, I do not even know that this is my problem, right? That is the kind of a thing. So it took us a long time to only get our messaging right and to find out who is our ICP that we should be going after. And now, because you're an industry veteran, you know that these are the problems, and you completely get it. But we thought that probably you are not the one who we should be targeting. We are like something else. And now we are talking to like 1,200 people companies who already have this problem. 500 people company, 1,200 people company. However, at the same time, when we talk to 1,200 people company, we cannot deploy to the entire company. This is how Slack also went and did it as well. That what they started doing is that they picked and chose only one team. And it has to be like a one minuscule team. You convince them that you can solve their workflow problem or any kind of problem, and the word spreads fast. Then they would like talk to the other team saying that, hey, we are using this, why don't you use that? And that's exactly what we are doing. Is that even if we go to a bigger company, we talk to like a 10 people, 20 people company saying that, can we identify your problem and can we solve it? And then let them talk about it. Let them be our spokesperson rather than we saying that. So we are making case studies and so on and so forth. So it's a complete, so, it is a very complete humbling process for us.
Beautiful. So, something which is true, many times people even do not know what is their problem.
Exactly.
And most of the time, what they feel their problem is actually a symptom. And it takes some time for them to really understand that, okay, this is the problem. This happens in all the time with most startups. Second point is, in startups, agility is the strength, and that's how they grow fast. But the same agility becomes a weakness
Yes.
when they start becoming 200, 300, 500 people, and they start building processes, building up teams. And when a person was wearing 5 hats at a time, doing 5 type of work, suddenly you are compartmentalizing him to do only one part and go deep in that. And that's the time when they start realizing, no, agility, I need it, but I need a structure also because now I'm growing in. And I think that's the sweet spot which you all come in at that time there.
Yeah.
Thanks for this. I have one question which is little personal for all three of you. And again, I start with whosoever. We can start with Pankaj. If you can tell, there are a few people who are here who are entrepreneurs in our audience, or some of them are working with startups in some form or shape. Uh, Three things which you would like to tell them from your personal experience if they are running a startup or being a part of a startup or even thinking of being a part of a startup. What are the three things what you want them to carry with them? And the same thing I would request later on Srikanth and Saurav also to share that piece.
Uh, I would answer this if I could go 6, 7 years back, and what I would tell myself. Number one, I think I would ask myself, or I would highly advocate the individual who is starting his own company to become highly resourceful. So he has to start building his own character, that he is very, very resourceful, because you will get a lot of rejections, you will get a lot of no's. And how do you still be able to generate the resources that are required for that thing or task to be done, right? So building that resourcefulness skill set and mindset is very, very critical. Second is, no matter what background you are coming from, whether it be tech, non-tech, one skill set that you have to learn and build very fast is sales, or the ability to pursue it. If you don't crack the skill as a founder during the early part of the journey or throughout the journey as well, very low chances that, although you might have a very good technology and everything, if you're not able to present it, market it well, influence people, that might become a big concern or a challenge. uh, that's my second point. I think I've learned it the hard way, and we're working on that bit as well. And the third one is, I think, like Shrikant also mentioned, get your fundamentals right. Whether it be identifying the right customer profiles, the product market fit, being very lean during the early phase, not working or focusing on all of these policies and getting stuff regulated, while is cracking the product market fit. Working on the fundamentals is, I think, something very critical. Don't become a big startup or a startup very early on. Don't have that aspiration. Have an aspiration to find out a problem and solve that and find that right fit. That is, I think, very critical.
Oh, true. Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for that. Who was a good nice Saurav, you would like to share your experience?
Sure. I'll share two more business-oriented experience and one perhaps a bit more personal one. So the two business-oriented ones are along the lines of what Pankaj was saying. One of them is, look, this is my second startup that I'm working in, and I've invested in a few myself. So ambiguity and uncertainty becomes your day-to-day life. In a startup, honestly, I don't know. Sometimes, forget next week, I don't know what I'm going to be working on tomorrow or the day after, right? Something will come up. There'll be some new crisis, or there'll be suddenly some new deal, both good or bad. So you can't predict. Your life is quite unpredictable. So my advice to everyone who works in a startup is figure out very quickly how to bring structure to your life. Right? Be structured in your thinking. Be focused in your approach. Because if you're not, then you will end up not sleeping or having other health, physical or mental health issues, because it really gets pretty stressful when you're doing so many things and you don't know what you're working on tomorrow. And the second one, Pushkaraj, I won't have three, but I'll have two. So
That's
one
fine.
is this is one which is about managing ambiguity and uncertainty through structure and focus. The other one is you really need to have a support structure, primarily on the family side, because you will struggle, you will fail, you will have money problems, you will have health problems, you will not be able to spend time with family. Your family needs to appreciate why you're doing this. Your family needs to appreciate both the upside as well as the downside of you doing this. And most importantly, if you're married, your wife is your single biggest supporter, right? You need to convince her and your kids, if they're grown up, that look, this is why I'm doing it. And if she's not bought into it, forget your investors. The first person you need to convince to invest in you is your spouse or your kids.
Really
So
well said.
that support structure, I cannot stress that enough, because again, I have experience working with people. If that support structure is not there, it again leads to a lot of mental and physical stress, which is avoidable. So maybe it's a bit too personal, Pushkaraj, but
No, actually, it's a very important point. In fact, I want to summarize that a little differently once we complete with Srikanth. To absolutely perfect point you said, and I in a way correlate that with what Pankaj talked about resourcefulness, and in a way they are related. First, have a buy-in here, and then also leverage all your resources which you have. Srikanth, over to you.
Okay, so I mean, I
A
can
pragmatic, another pragmatic one again.
Yeah, again, because as I said, I have never worked in my life. So I have only done like I've only hustled in my life, all my life, like to where like, I was sleeping on the floor. I had like, 500 rupees in my bank account and that kind of stuff. So, again, like everyone said, very, very pragmatic points, but I would like to just like reiterate on these ones. Like, for example, like when I started my startup journey in 2004, I was a fifth employee at usendit.com, which is like a Silicon Valley startup. I made so much money that I didn't know what to do with that kind of money. And then I lost all that money on an MBA in UK. And in the first year itself, I realized that, okay, this is like the worst thing that I ever did. But my parents were like, they are Indian parents, and they're like, you cannot come back. You cannot just leave this thing, right? You come back, you finish your MBA, and then you come back. And then again, I'm back to square one. I've spent all my money there, like on a very expensive MBA and stuff like that, only to realize that, okay, this is bullshit. If you want to start up this B school thing is not going to get you anywhere, right? So I've realized that right from the very beginning, right, if you are a startup founder, you are selling to everyone. You are selling your dreams to your parents. You are selling your dreams to your partner, right? Do not do ever do not even think about arranged marriage if you're a startup founder. I mean, I know this is like, it's funny, but like I've seen my other startup founders like divorcing because of the same thing that people. And there was a time in during the recession of 2007 and 9 where people were not marrying business owners, right? In fact, in Sangli as well, as that nobody wants to marry a farmer, right? Farmers are not getting these kind of things, and nobody wants to marry a business guy or something like that. Even if you have a salary of 15,000, that's fine. All the girls from Sangli want to marry only that kind of stuff, right? So the same thing again, like be very clear from the very beginning that and talking about the sales thing, I wanted to say this thing, but I think sort of as brought a very important point. One thing is that I was going to say is that if you do not have the courage of picking up the phone and doing a cold call, you are not yet ready for being a startup founder. That's it. Because I believe that everyone who startups are very intelligent, like very intelligent people. I have spoken to like more than 400 startup founders myself, right? I'm an angel investor. I'm also a VC as well. Our fund invests in, we've invested in 31 startups yet, right? And I've seen that everyone is 10x smarter than me, like if not more, right? But again, everyone is you will be like dealt with a lot of introspection. You will be like dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome and stuff like that. And then I've seen people like hiring other people thinking that they have solved the problem, and that's where they actually fail, right? Because if you do not believe in your product, you will be the best person to articulate that kind of a problem, right? And you cannot outsource this particular function, right?
True.
That's it. Again, as I said, that as a startup founder, you're selling your dreams to your parents, to your wife, or to your partner, to your friends. There was a point in time when I was starting, everyone was like, hey man, why are you doing this? All my friends were driving BMW. I did not have money to buy a cycle, right? And they were thinking that, oh man, it's a wasted kind of a talent, right? But that was exactly what was actually happening, right?
Completely
That's one thing. The
understandable.
sales
True.
thing is one thing. Second is that, probably when up to 35, you can, you can take the stresses and the punches and stuff like that. But imagine if you want to, like, plan for your family or something like that, it's very, very difficult, right? And plus, just
Brilliant.
like, mentally agile and stuff like that. After 35, you are not mentally agile. Your every bone in the in the body is paining, right? And your bills have to be paid and stuff like that. Your wife is like, oh my god, my husband does not do anything, I, like, support him. And
I,
that,
I, I may disagree with some of the things you talked about on the age front of it, but I think it
So
is
I'm
fine.
39.
Pushkaraj,
Pushkaraj
you
may be
are a very
slightly
fit
higher.
person, I'm not, right? So
So I
right,
think, but
so
good.
Agility.
Thanks for this one. There's one thing which I want to share with everyone here. Many times we are fortunate to have great leaders with you, and having worked with Satya, and when Satya was transforming the from the Steve Ballmer days to Satya Nadella days, as a field manager, was responsible to bring on some changes in India. The first thing which is said, and in a way, when Saurabh talked about that, he said, "Get comfortable being uncomfortable." A very strong statement, right? And that's about working in ambiguity. So I think it's a great thing and a great segue for it. So firstly, thanks a lot everyone for getting on to this call. We discussed it with, talked about your experiences, what you have been done.